it's really brought home the idea to me that life is so temporary. Like so temporary, but not just temporary, but brief.
But also think it is important for people to understand that our instability, everything that is happening here is absolutely a matter of national security.
Trump is using what had previously been tactics held for foreign wars, foreign activity, and he has basically made them domestic.
So I will say this is what keeps me up at night. I'm really concerned about like DC occupation. I'm concerned about the people who are being disappeared. Literally, as I'm talking to y'all, there are 3 troops outside the window, and I got a text from a good friend of mine that Memphis is making an announcement tomorrow. An announcement this week that the National Guard is going there too.
The military turned on its people.
These are foreign actors, and we are affording them access willfully, naively, and really, frankly, dangerously.
I'm frightened about this. I do not think people are taking this seriously enough. And this is why I keep saying, if we have midterm elections. Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media.
Welcome
Welcome home, y'all. This is episode 96 of Native Land Pod. We are your hosts, Tiffany Cross, Andrew Gillum, and Angela Rye. Rocking the cap today. Rocking the cap, but spitting no cap.
Puma.
Exactly.
Puma down.
Exactly. All right, let's get
They
right
didn't pay
to
for that, Andrew. Stop it.
I
Yeah,
mean, but you got them. You repping them.
I know, but you ain't got to do an extra plug. Let's keep
Yeah.
going.
So, well, speaking of plug, let's plug what we're talking about today.
Kamala Harris's new book, which is scheduled to be released on September 23rd. She has an excerpt in The Atlantic. Eager to get into that.
That's real. Co-host, I think we got bombs dropping over sovereign states of Qatar. We've got Trump dropping bombs on speedboats in the Caribbean. We have Russia invading Poland's airspace. Everybody is violating right now on the international scale. And I'd love to talk about the implications of that on us, the American people.
I have questions for you on that, Andrew, because I don't know if I understand all of it, and our audience probably doesn't either. So looking forward to that. I want to get into this idea of Trump having a third term. He has been toying with this idea, but this week in particular, Supreme Court Justices Amy Coney Barrett and Sonia Sotomayor were asked about it. And I just don't think that society or the media is taking it seriously enough. So it looks like we have a lot to get into. Let's rock.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all. So I want to start with this quote from the excerpt that was released in The Atlantic on Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
On Wednesday morning. Their thinking was zero sum. If she's shining, he's dimmed. None of them grasped that if I did well, he did well. That given the concerns about his age, my visible success as his vice president was vital. It would serve as a testament to his judgment in choosing me and reassurance that if something happened, the country was in good hands. My success was important for him. His team didn't get it. And I wanted to start there because I think that many of us who have interfaced with the Biden administration at all, this was not a quiet rumbling. This was something that was regularly discussed about how they were handling Kamala Harris, what her portfolio was. Why was that her portfolio? When was she going to get out front and lead on some things? And I think really it took until well into their 3rd year around the Dobbs decision, where we really saw her go out without him, without kind of being restrained or handled by White House staff. So this piece to me was particularly resonant because, again, it wasn't a secret for those of us who knew her or know this administration or knew that administration. It was the least or the worst kept secret. So I do think that, one, I want to hear from y'all on what you're expecting in this book. Again, it's released on September 23rd, but I think that this particular passage is fascinating because I thought we'd been through this.
Yeah. Let me just say for our viewers, this excerpt was dropped in The Atlantic this week. Jeffrey Goldberg had a really interesting, who of course is the editor of The Atlantic, had a really interesting intro even, I thought, with how he introduced it, because he kind of sets the tone of, there are so political books, particularly post-mortem political books, can be incredibly boring. And he sets the tone that this is not what he was expecting from her. And I think a lot of people um, particularly within the Beltway, we'll be talking about this. And so I just want to take a moment and tell our listeners, if you guys are talking about it, please be sure to tell your friends that NLP tackled this topic, and share it among your group chats, because we want to know if our thoughts reflect yours, and want to hear from you. Andrew, what's your take on this book?
Just pulling back, I think it's impressive to see her really sound like herself. And I guess what I mean by that, again, Angela alluded to this, for those of us who have been in, contact or have had any real significant relationship with the vice president, we know the authentic side, the real side. And I think she invites the readers, at least so far in this excerpt. And if this is a sign of things to come with the full writing of the book, released later, this month, then I think we're in for a less filtered, almost to unfiltered, truth teller in Kamala Harris, who's really prepared to square up with the ways in which she's been wronged, the ways in which the credit that she's rightfully earned has not been provided, given to her, right? She hadn't been given her flowers. And I also think we'll get a less filtered version of her policy self. So her political self, her policy self, and I think her true sort of I'm Kamala, not the Kamala Harris, but I'm Kamala introduction for regular ordinary folks who just want to know that there are points of relationship, points of relate, where they can say, "Oh, I do that too. She does that. Oh, I do that too." I think that's eluded her for a lot of her political career. That relatableness between everyday common folks.
Mm-hmm.
And then the only other thing I'd say, just sort of big picture, would be I've already started hearing some of the conversation amongst the punditry class, sort of reading this excerpt in contrast to how Biden would feel, what Biden would think. And I just want to say, this is her writing.
That's right.
This is reflecting her harrowing journey, unprecedented in American history, lift from vice president to presidential contender because the sitting president of the United States steps back from the nomination. So it's okay if she's centered in this. It's okay for the book that she wrote to be about her experience from her perspective and not centering Joe Biden in that. That's not disloyal. I'm not being disrespectful to him. I'm simply reminding us that we can read her words and take them as hers in their own singular context without having to compare or contemplate how's this going to land with Joe Biden's world.
You kind of get
Yeah.
into the some of my thoughts around this, Andrew, because I do think this is a bigger deal to the chattering class, to the punditry class, than it is to America writ large. I will
Yeah.
say, when I was reading the excerpt in the Atlantic, that she does speak right to the heart of Black women. Like, she starts out
Mm.
with speaking to Zeta Phi Beta sorority. She gives a shout out to the Divine Nine right off the top. She
Yeah.
talks about the Boule. And so I think there are so many Black people who will immediately relate to this,
Yeah.
and particularly her being this overqualified woman, who was standing behind an ailing, some might argue failing, in health anyway, man. And so, yes, that will resonate. I also saw a counterpart in that, and I think this is where it's always been a balance, right? On what I would personally find interesting versus what the
Mm.
audience at large would find interesting. I
Mm.
also know there will be people, Black people in particular, who do not relate to the Boule, who do not relate to the Divine Nine, who do not relate to fraternities and sororities and private colleges and HBCUs, and who will still feel, I do not, this writing does not connect with me. And so I think a
Mm.
lot of these political postmortems are so exciting to the Beltway class, and not
Mm.
necessarily to people outside of that, given what's happening in the country. I also think I so understand her frustration, and it's like, I get to tell my story. I will not be muzzled in this moment. And I
Yeah.
want to tell you all, this is what happened to me. I wonder if the appetite among the American readership, the ever dwindling American readership, because we all know how hard it is in publishing right now, if the appetite is less like, we want to know what happened, versus
Yeah.
we want to know, how do we defeat Donald Trump and his minions
Mm.
right now. I
Yeah,
don't know how
yeah.
much people will latch on to what was happening last year,
Mm,
given that we are in a state of panic right now. So, look,
Yeah.
personally, I am going to consume this book. Like I said, I read it and I thought, oh, you are going there. And this is an excellent excerpt to read to attract people
mhm,
to it. I just don't know if the American people have the appetite for it right now. I think a lot of black women, black people with disposable income will most certainly buy this book, and I anticipated that it will spend a lot of time on the New York Times bestseller list, and my best wishes to her. I hope it does. I have completely divorced myself from the Beltway class, their opinions about it. Of course, they would center the white man in this. And I would just,
mm,
if they happen to ever listen to NLP, I mean, I think they have to reckon with the fact we talk all the time. We have a group chat when we're together, we talk about things. We rarely, and even in our group chats outside of each other, I can't tell you the last time somebody has said, "Oh my God, did you guys see what happened on Meet the Press today? Did
Right.
you guys watch Stephanopoulos today?" Like they are
Right.
the anachronisms. Nobody gives a shit what they have to say. So the fact that they're centering Biden shows how disconnected they are from a multi demographic society that has completely left them behind. They have still
Mm.
trafficked in a media landscape that has been completely bleached by their myopic, outdated, anachronistic viewpoints. And
Tell us
she's
how you feel,
clear,
girl.
but she is clear that she's like, she DGAF, okay? She's like, I'm coming out guns a blazing and I'm saying what happened. So we'll see how people respond to it.
You
I
know,
just, I just,
tip. Oh,
Yeah.
go
mhm.
ahead, Angela. Go ahead, Angela,
No,
please.
no, no. I think that the other part of this that is important based on some of the feedback that I'm seeing online, I'm curious about it, and I will say in full disclosure for those who are watching at home, this is not a place where I represent the best of journalistic integrity. I'm very biased. I love her deeply, and so I've been curious to see what the comments were, and some folks are like, "Why now? Why didn't you say that then?" Where have you been? And I think all of those questions are fair. But one thing that I'm hoping that this book does is give us a new frame for what can happen, even miraculously so, in such a short timeline. Again, they were talking about a campaign that was run over $1 billion worth of a spend in 107 days. So, what happens if all of the people come together and think the best and the brightest and all of our ideas and all of our innovation? We know what he's torn up in more than 107 days. But what happens if we come together to see real systemic change? If we put our best thinking together in 107 days. And I think that is the offering that she also gives. It's not just a reflection, it's an opportunity to lean into what happens if we really come together in ways that I think are frankly unprecedented in this country for all the reasons we know, including the fact that America is in fact a racist country. But I hope that people will ask her, why did it take this long? I hope that people will not center Joe Biden or anybody else's whiteness so much that they can't understand that, yes, this man has been diagnosed with cancer. Yes, he is undergoing treatment. And yes, it is still her story to tell. And no, she does not have a whole lot of bandwidth or room to decide when the publisher decides to move forward with the book.
Yeah.
There are all of these things. So I think that, the fact that she wrote it, it took her longer to write the book than it took her to run the campaign, one. And two, it's still a pretty, I mean, Tiff, it's a pretty escalated timeline for the release of a book. So
Yeah,
anyway.
Well,
very
I just
much. I have a
this
Hmm.
question for
this.
you, Andrew, but I want you to talk. I
Oh,
have a question after. Go ahead.
okay. Just real quick. But first of all, listen, her vice presidency like just ended. I know it has felt like we've been
Eight
through three
months.
Yeah.
world wars and all this kind of stuff. That's because of the speed and just dizzying pace of the ruining of what we know as the American fabric that this administration under Trump has undertaken. But in truth, this is probably about the right time that you can step back from a situation as un unprecedented and unparalleled as what she has experienced, because not only was it the 107 days, but it was also doing that 107 days as a black woman and as a woman. And those are layers that also in the first rendering of these excerpts that sort of really pierced me was how much concentration and emphasis was put on how she had to present next to Biden, how she needed to appear, how she had to demur, how she needed not to be impressive in her speaking style,
Hmm.
how she, didn't need to be the political winner on public policy issues pursued by the administration, for fear that it might dim the light of the sitting president. When you're the sitting president, ain't nobody gonna dim your light.
Yeah.
You may give it away, but you still are the president of the United States. But we knew this with her going in. There were lots of people in Biden world who were very much so suspicious of her after that debate where she bought in busing,
Yeah. She
and
talks
were
about that.
unforgiving of her
She does.
from that moment. I was at that debate. I remember gasping like, "Oh God, this is yeah, okay." So this, and it was a lasting thing. I think it still lasts for a number of people. And for those listeners who, may not have a complete relationship to what I'm speaking of, this is a book that I think every woman in politics, every woman, period, who is trafficking and trying to be taken for your full worth, to be seen as a whole person and not a division of all the various parts of yourself, of women with ambition. And also, it's important for men who work with women who are equal to the task, if not greater, to understand that we're not the center of the universe and everything doesn't revolve around us. We're not the sun by which we water and flower and bring life and enlightenment to everything else around us. We all cooperate, right? We're like a body, and there are no extraneous parts. There's just the whole body, and you got to treat it well. And I think that's how politics, and particularly politics of the Democratic Party, really deserve an evolution here around this. We think of ourselves as forward thinking around women and centering the needs of women. But then in real practice, it's like if the man ain't in the middle, and that your actions are then basically designed in contrast to mine, then you're a lost cause. You're too ambitious. I'm suspicious of you because you won't be loyal because I don't know, you have designs on your life too. Your designs need to be focused and based on my designs, and that's how you design what you want to do. And I think that belief, that patriarchy, is alive and well in both parties, but in American political culture, period.
I think we also have to disaggregate women, right? Because I don't know that
Yeah.
Black women necessarily feel aligned or allyship with white women in politics. And I don't even mean just like Trump
Sure,
supporters. I mean, just in the Democratic Party, I don't know that there is a lot of commonality in our interest at times. There are definitely members of Congress who are white women who I think espouse beliefs and things that I do not connect with, some things that run
sure.
contrary to my own humanity. So I that's why I said I think she speaks right to the heart of Black women here. But I
There's
take
no
your
doubt.
point. Yeah, I definitely take your
I
point.
just think in the concentric circles that there's a circle there that I think all women will see familiarity.
Yes.
But I think you're completely right
Yeah.
that her experience is coming from that of a black woman in politics.
Right. And but I hope that white women can learn because I think some of the people that she was talking about who were saboteurs on a lot of her initiatives were white women in the Biden administration.
Yeah,
But I want to get back to
and
something
black.
And
Angela
in his
said.
family.
Right, precisely. But I want to get back to something Angela said because this is a legitimate question, and I think people say, "Well, why didn't you say that then?" And Angela,
Mm.
you know better than anyone, and Andrew, certainly you do too. This is why I want your thoughts on this. Andrew, you were on a short leaked list of potential VP running mates for Hillary Clinton. Angela, you've navigated politics from Capitol Hill, and you also, in your position on Capitol Hill, worked with the Obama administration on a lot of things. So we kind of know the social norms and mores of politics. And it really is that the vice president is not the person out front. The vice president does typically genuflect to the position of president. Joe Biden himself had a few faux pas on that. He was out front on gay marriage before Obama really said anything, and he was also making a lot of social gaffes during the Obama administration. I just think in this era of Trump, because as people are asking that question, I hope they can understand that that has been the tradition in Washington. That you're not the star, you're there to support the president. Some people argue the role of VP is very superfluous, but I I wonder in the era of Trump if that is all gone out the window. Like it has to, right? All of our norms have to go out the window, and I think this is probably the first political postmortem book um, that does that from a VP role. And I wonder how this will inform, because she has been the first to step out there and say, F that, let me tell you what was really going down. I wonder how this will inform future VP roles, particularly under Democratic administrations,
Mm.
if we are ever to see one again, which we'll also get to later in the show. And again, is a hot topic. So I hope y'all are sharing this, because I want to hear from y'all in the comments what y'all think. If you're gonna buy the book, if you bought the book, what you think about it, did you read the excerpt and all of that. But just curious your thoughts about that for the VP role, Andrew or Angela, whomever want to take it.
That's what-
So I think there's a few things here. There's this convergence even of experience that we're going through right now, Tiff, to your point, around living in fascism and the obligation that we have to speak up so that history is not only kind to us, but that we did with the best we could for future generations. And I wonder if some of her calculus wasn't, I have an obligation, and I agree with Andrew here, for all women, because I'm the first woman, period, to serve in this role. Do I have an obligation to tell you the hurdles I had to climb, the hills I had to, scale to really make this more and more equitable space for you? So I wonder if she was like, I know what the norm is, but do I defy the norm? Because if I don't, is there going to be another? That's the first consideration. I think the second consideration is, given where we are right now in history, it's like, yeah, like there's kind of a collective obligation that hopefully we all feel to tell the truth and shame the devil. Because if you don't really start telling the truth about the many like errors, challenges, mistakes that this party, the Democratic Party, has historically not learned from, they are bound to continue to make the same mistakes and bound to continue to lose. I kind of resent some of the commentary I've seen, y'all, and I know I might be the one. I'm like Tiff today in the comments, but not for Native Land Pod. I'm on the book, but I wonder if like if some of what I'm feeling is like, oh, there's this whiny. They're talking about she sounds whiny in the book, which also sounds like a gender thing.
Yes.
It's like you can't
course.
lodge a goddamn complaint. When you feel like you stepped out of the Senate where you were like America's darling in Senate hearing rooms, and then now you're going back into a space where you just have to kind of carry the briefcase. And I don't even think some of that is the norm. There are other vice presidents that were more robust and more visible. Mike Pence was not one of them. I think a lot of people don't even remember he was a VP. But that
Dick
is
Cheney changed it all.
Yeah,
He set
very
a
good
different
sorry, y'all,
tone
if you
for the
can.
vice
There's
presidency.
tables moving in here, so I don't know if you can hear, but hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Angela, maybe you should tell us, or can you tell us where you are if you don't mind?
I am in Montgomery, Alabama.
For what?
I'm in a
Gum.
conference room. Just
We hear them in
Chilling.
the
blood,
back.
folks.
We
Chilling.
hear
Great.
them.
So sorry. Let me go on mute so Andrew
No,
can
it's
answer. I'm
okay.
so
No,
sorry.
I think
welcome
it's
to the
part of
South.
the
Leave it alone.
conversation.
Leave it.
Yeah, it's not disruptive.
Yes, the vice presidential as a role does tend to genuflect to the principal, the president. You try not to get in front of your president, and that makes good sense. But once a vice president is provided a portfolio by which the administration expects her to take the lead, you do expect then that the platform, the opportunity is then created to help the vice president excel on that portfolio. We all saw out the gate they gave her immigration. And of course, many of us scratched our heads saying, wait a minute, you gave her an issue that even George Bush, when, going back since Reagan, right? Since Reagan's embrace of immigration, the Republican Party turned wholesale against it in further administrations, with the exception of a Bush who came behind him, George Bush Jr., whatever is what is he, the third or the second?
We know who you're talking
son,
about.
baby
Yeah.
Bush.
Yeah.
George
Anyway,
W. Bush.
Yeah,
She had
W.
a different middle name.
That's it, W. So W. Bush, who came in, frankly, saying we need a pathway to citizenship. He tried to get that through a Republican Congress, couldn't make it happen. Obama, same deal. We wanted to try to provide a pathway. So you gave her a portfolio that even presidents with parties in their control in the House and the Senate can't make happen. And you've now set that in the lap of the Vice President of the United States, which I just saw as a setup from the very beginning. And on the whiny thing, y'all, history isn't whining, okay? History is just history.
Yeah.
History is what has happened. And so I absolutely believe that that's a gender-related insult and assault. And I think we're going to hear a lot of that. And frankly, it's because of our conditioning. And I actually think some of the worst critique of her will probably come from other women, to be honest, about it, who will want to set themselves apart as basically saying, if this had been my experience, I would have kept it under the rug and to myself.
Yeah.
Some in our community will say, is she being disloyal? And again, I thought she was an incredibly loyal vice president. And I think even in her writing here, she's incredibly loyal. When she does take swipes at the administration that she was a part of, she takes swipes at the handlers surrounding the president who caged on a number of issues and tried to block his passage to her in many instances. And so I just think people should, one, if you are a supporter of these folks, get out and buy the book. Don't make it a question. Just do it, like Nike says.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is look at it with a graceful eye. Read it with a graceful eye. All of us got judgments and backseat, driving and quarterbacking, but you don't know. None of us know because we've never been there.
Yeah.
All right. And if you have, maybe you can say a little something. But if you haven't, take it for what it is. Somebody else's attributed story of what happened, how they experienced it, and then what they want us to know coming out of it.
Well,
we got some competitors in the political podcast space too, who I'm eager to see.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I'm gonna start naming names,
Shall not be named.
Who I'm eager to see how they respond to this, because they, especially around the primary time where there was, conversation about a contested convention and whether or not Kamala Harris should be the nominee. They had some things to say about Joe Biden. So now that it's the Black woman that came forward, I'm eager to see how they respond.
Yes. Well, I'm just going to say Pod Save America. I want to see, because I do feel like they speak to a different demographic than we do. But
it's not just them, though.
Okay, it may be others, but I know that particular podcast, I feel sometimes does not necessarily include our audience and our listeners. I think they have a more bleached audience, I'll say. But I
think their
imagine
experience, their testimony will be interesting. I think it will be reflective of what they are capable of doing.
I agree.
Based off their walk in life, right? Just as we are, based off our walk in life.
But I imagine that we'll be talking about this for, this probably won't be the last time we'll talk about this, because her actual book, we'll have to read the whole book. Right now, we're just reading the excerpt that you can find in The Atlantic. So I hope other people, it is behind a paywall, so try to get a subscription if you can, or get somebody to cut and paste and send it to you if you don't have a subscription. But looking forward
to... Or save your coins and buy it on the 23rd.
Tiff said they got them DVDs they slinging in the barbershop. Exactly. Get one of those, okay?
I just need for the excerpt, but please do buy the book when it comes out. But definitely would love to hear your thoughts in the comments on the excerpts, because y'all know I stay in the comments. But yeah, we should. I want to get into something else.
People are asking me to run, and there's a whole story about running for a third term. I don't know. I never looked into it. They do say there's a way you can do it, but I don't know about that. But I want to do a fantastic job.
In an exclusive phone interview, NBC's Kristen Welker asked the president about a possible scenario where Vice President Vance is elected with President Trump as his running mate, and then Vance steps aside. The president saying that's one method, but there are others too, saying he would not talk about them.
So that was Donald Trump toying with the idea of a third term. And I wanted to talk about this topic because I don't think people are taking this seriously enough while we're focused on Epstein and kind of just like yellow, salacious topics. This is a really frightening story to me. But the breaking news banner that you see above the fold and newspaper sections is all about something else and not taking this seriously. It came up again this week because Supreme Court justices rarely give interviews. They rarely are out front talking. But two Supreme Court justices spoke about this. First, I want you all to take a listen to Justice Amy Coney Barrett in an interview with Fox News' Brett Baier.
Right, and the 22nd Amendment says you can only run for office for 2 terms.
True.
You think that that's cut and dry?
Well, that's what the amendment says, right? After FDR had 4 terms, that's what that amendment says.
Now take a listen to Justice Sonia Sotomayor on The View. this week being posed that same question by former Trump administration official Alyssa Griffin.
Do you believe the 22nd Amendment is settled law?
The Constitution is settled law.
Yeah.
No one has tried to challenge that. Until somebody tries, you don't know. So it's not settled because we don't have a court case about that issue, but it is in the Constitution. And one should understand that there's nothing that is the greater law in the United States than the Constitution of the United States.
I'm frightened about this. I do not think people are taking this seriously
It's
enough,
bad.
and this is why I keep saying, if we have midterm elections, when we talked earlier about in the last segment about secession, and if we have another Democratic administration in the White House, I am baffled at this white media landscape that's like, oh, that crazy Trump, this is Trump being Trump. What are you all like? Is this something that keeps you all up at night?
I wonder, so I won't say this is what keeps me up at night. I'm really concerned about like DC occupation and concerned about the people who are being disappeared. Literally, as I'm talking to y'all, there are 3 troops outside the window, and I got a text from a good friend of mine that Memphis is making an announcement tomorrow. I'm sorry, an announcement this week that the National Guard is going there too. So there are some things that it sounds nuts to say, Tiff. I actually feel bad about this coming out of my mouth, but there are some things that feel more pressing right now. Given that we're being forced to drink out of a fire hose in real time and consistently, there's some drama, there's some terrorism, there's something that we're having to answer to every single day. I do think, to be fair, this doesn't seem like something that white media is avoiding. The 2 clips that we just played is white media talking about this. What is scary to me, though, is it just seems like a passing conversation about, like, well, what do you think? And even more so, I would expect, and I know it's not a Supreme Court opinion, but I don't want Sonia Sotomayor to sound as passive about it as Amy Coney Barrett. I would have loved to hear her say, before this administration, the Constitution was settled law. And before this administration, or before this attempt at this administration, we would have never considered criminal immunity in the Supreme Court for a sitting president. Before this administration, we would have done just like she did with the ICE raids opinion. So I'm actually more, I know we were mad at the media a lot, but I'm actually more frustrated with the ways in which these justices who have these lifetime appointments, at least for now, it's supposed to be settled law, right? I want you to give that the same energy that you would protect that job, friend. And I didn't hear that. I was more alarmed by her response. I was sitting here like, wait, what? I need her to sound a little
more technical.
technical.
If she knows something, Andrew.
No, I think hers
I
was technical.
It might have been, but I'm just
I think it was technical. Settled.
Stank on it.
Technically, it's been litigated before the court and it's been settled. There's an opinion that says this is what the Constitution says, and the court has now affirmed it through case such and such and such. Because no one has ever dared tried the most settled of all settled law in the land, which is more. I shouldn't say the most settled, the most bedrock of all the law in the land, the Constitution, of which other laws emanate. It's where other laws get their power, is through its constitutionality. So she's right on that point, but she's also right in saying nobody has dared tried this before. And I also think she's probably being careful, especially given the conservative media landscape out here, the conservative landscape period in this country, not to exempt herself out of this case should Trump have his way and set up an instance where this question makes its way before the court. At which point you can't have a justice out there opining their opinion, or they might be asked to not make not be able to sit for a case because they've already opined their opinions
I
about
think
a
that
certain matter.
recusal has a different set of obligations, and
It,
they're
it may, and I'm
yeah,
simply
okay.
saying that given the conservative landscape that we are living in, they would be so happy to take a clip from Justice Sonia Sotomayor espousing or extended comments about the fact that absolutely the Constitution says what it says and there's no reproach. Well, the truth is that the Constitution has had reproach. I mean, people bring
Yeah.
suits on the basis that a thing is unconstitutional. And pushing the limits of the boundaries of what the Constitution actually says. But if you are a conservative jurist, which Amy Coney Barrett, appointed by Donald Trump, says that she is, it means that you take the text literally. And I don't know
Yeah.
how many literal derivatives you can get from a person can only run twice for the presidency.
Right. Right.
And they go
But
further to say
also,
they don't have to be consecutive, but rather that you just simply cannot run twice. But the mention by Amy Coney Barrett of 4 terms served by Roosevelt, she knows that was prior to that constitutional amendment. In fact, that constitutional amendment emanated from the fact that we did not want a president being able to serve 4 terms. Prior to that, the Constitution was silent on it, and we relied on the example of George Washington and his willingness to step away from that most powerful office at that time after 2 terms. That was all we had. Well, now we got law that says this is what it is.
but I think also the idea that we have to confront that the Constitution is just a piece of paper. I
Yeah.
mean, Donald Trump has like declared that. Like these are just
Yeah.
rules and laws that y'all made up. I
Yeah.
don't
This is
like 'em,
guidance.
so I don't want to
This is
follow 'em.
guidance.
Right. Exactly. Like this is a framework, but if
Yeah.
I don't like something, then I don't want to do it. And I think
Yeah.
what's at the root cause of our concern, our collective concern, because Angela, you're talking about, well, that's not what's keeping me up at night because there's this urgent thing. You mentioned drinking from the fire hose, but it's really all the same
It's
thing.
all,
It is
yeah, for sure.
is Donald Trump just skirting our democratic norms and pushing the limits of power and testing these systems until they're broken and flooding us with chaos until chaos seems normal.
That's right.
You also mentioned, I have to say, I have not seen the reporting on Memphis, and I know the Republican governor there, Bill Lee, has said in recent weeks that he is not interested in deploying the National Guard. So that hasn't been reported yet, but that does not mean that it's not on the precipice of happening right now. And it
By
leads us
the
to a viewer
time
question
this
we had.
podcast airs, it
Yeah,
will
potentially
be
we'll
announced.
see.
No,
It leads us to a viewer question who had that same concern. Let's
I'm
take a listen.
assuring you that it's from an elected official.
Have you guys noticed how Detroit, Michigan has been omitted from the list of places that the National Guard is being sent to by the president? He's named Baltimore, D.C., L.A., Philly, Chicago. As many negative connotations as Detroit has had over the years, as much crime written as he's been saying our city is. But for us to be omitted from the list, noticeably, multiple times, every time they announce it, I'm waiting for our name to be added. It's not. And there's no scarier time for a person in an abusive relationship than when their abuser goes silent or pauses the cycle. Why? Because you know you're not out of the abusive relationship. So either you are A, in the discard phase where you don't even care whether I live or die, or more than likely the latter, which is B, you planning something extra sinister for that person, your victim. Because I'm like, what you got planned for us for 2026? So if y'all have heard anything, any rumblings about what's planned for Michigan in 2026, because we got a mayoral election happening where we got a 37-year-old black woman who is leading in the polls. We also got Garland Gilchrist, the lieutenant governor, who's a black man running for governor of the state of Michigan against independent Mike Duggan. I'm going to keep my thoughts on that to the side. But have y'all heard anything about what he has planned for Michigan? Because, honey, I need to know.
I love that quiet talk.
Yeah,
I love it's
exactly. Like she whispering, like somebody right there. But this is the point, that how quickly it can move. Angela, I wasn't disputing what you were saying. I was responsibly saying that there had been no reporting about it, but certainly things can happen so quickly that sometimes there isn't a warning. And to her point about Detroit, it's like, yeah, we could wake up tomorrow. We don't know. We could wake up tomorrow and it won't just be Memphis, or it could be Memphis, Detroit, Atlanta, like who knows? So it's very frightening. And I think that is rooted in this discussion, how quickly these things can happen. And like, how do you address these challenges? When I first, because we read the transcript of her question, I'm like, is she wanted him to come to Detroit? But hearing her, the concern in her voice, and thank you, by the way, for taking the time to record that video and share it with us. I don't even know how we combat that.
Yeah. The abuser
I
analogy
really don't
was
know.
actually helpful. I mean, I actually
Spot
thought it was a
on.
really, really apt analogy. I will tell you, anytime Trump gets in hot water, I start getting more and more concerned, right? So the Epstein
Because he needs a
thing breaks
distraction.
earlier in the week, and then the next thing we know, in Chicago, they didn't, they've unleashed already. Homeland Security folks were operating in the city the next morning after the breaking of the whole Epstein thing takes place, and then immediately, and I can't remember what the timing was. You all may correct me. This is one of the topics I wanted to bring up a little bit later was the whole dropping bombs on a speedboat in international
Yeah.
waters.
Yeah.
So I just
We'll
think
get to
we're
that.
all anything is on the block, period. But absolutely, when Trump is overwhelmed by criticism, just hold on. Just hold
But if
on
this
is
does,
is
I
my
do
belief
think if
system.
this does happen in Tennessee, this would be the first time that he's doing this. Correct me if I'm wrong. I could
In
be
a
factually
state,
inaccurate in a Republican-led state.
yeah.
But let
Which,
me
to me, once that happens, it opens the door for a lot of other things.
But this
Yeah.
is
Angela,
the thing
you
that I think
jumping
is
at the bit.
important for us to contextualize. He is sending the National Guard into Memphis.
Of course.
And there that is a black mayor. The challenge we have is the very thing that we flagged on this show about the way that Muriel Bowser was almost welcoming to Donald Trump, because Memphis's mayor is cut from a similar cloth as Muriel Bowser. So he is cooperating in advance with this based on what I'm being told from an elected official source. So it is a little different because we know that the state also has some responsibility for the National Guard. We know that they're fine with it. And then you have someone who's a willing participant at the mayoral level in Memphis. The other thing that I was going to flag for the question, Lakeisha, again, thank you for sending it in, is there is an election in Detroit, but it ain't happened yet. So Mary Sheffield ain't the mayor yet. Who is the mayor is Mike Duggan, who is running against Garland for the in the gubernatorial race. Why does that matter? This man is a partner with several MAGA folks on several investments, including completely whitewashing Detroit. And so I still think it is different. There is a wink and nod relationship going on here, and you will see that some of the pressure is ramped down with folks who Donald Trump has a good relationship with. He is an egomaniacal human being. That is how this works. So I think that it's important. There is a system, but I think that no matter what, he wants to make a black mayor look bad. And I think no matter what, where he has a good relationship, where someone's willfully stroking his ego, he ain't showing up the same way.
But
Yeah.
it will
But this
be
is
an interesting challenge to see how a Republican governor, because mayors don't have say over the National Guard or its deployment. The
yeah.
confrontation is with the governors, because if you
Yes.
deploy National Guard in my state,
That's right.
it is an affront to me. You say you're coming into my state and we can't handle the issues of crime, or that city within my state can't. And so you're going to basically borrow the power of the governor, because the governor is the one who generally is responsible for calling up the National Guard. The last time prior to Trump deploying National Guard soldiers was to integrate Southern
Yeah.
public
Schools. Yeah.
schools. So it's not a practice that presidents generally utilize, which I know we all know. But I am interested. I wish it wouldn't happen. But if it is going to happen, I'd be curious to know how a Republican governor, is going to stand
That's why that's a
when
big
his
deal.
state is in the
Yeah.
crosshairs. Is he going to stand with the people of his state and say, you're not going to degrade us this way? Or does he say, hey, we've got the welcome mat rolled out. Come on in.
But that's a
Yeah.
good
And
framing
that's
that
why I
people
think
should use.
the framing of the discussion when this initially started happening is, well, why not do this in Republican-led states? And I had such an issue with that, because it's like, no, we're not trying to normalize this. And
Yeah.
again, I understand. I just want to be clear. This is something somebody said this to Angela, an elected official said this to Angela, that this is happening. We're not saying it's happening. Angela's saying this is what I'm being told that it's happening. But again, in Trump's America, We have no, like literally, you wake up and it's like at any moment it could be a breaking news banner that he's deployed. But I do think this will be a game changer if he starts deploying these folks in Republican-led states, because then that puts a whole lot of other cities like Jackson, Atlanta, and when you
You
do
should
the
count on it.
ranking
New
of Trump,
You should
Orleans.
count on it.
Chicago,
He already said he
yes,
was sending it into New Orleans. That's why I'm like, this is ask
No,
yeah,
answered and done.
again, we ain't
Yeah.
seen it yet,
I,
and
I
I'm
understand
not
what y'all are
beckoning it.
saying. I'm
I'm
just
not
telling
beckoning
you,
it.
he does not care. He does not have, there's no safety net or
yeah.
hedge of protection for a black mayor in whether the state is red,
Agreed.
blue, purple, green, whatever. If they are a black mayor who is not willing to bend the knee, they are in harm's way.
I
Yeah.
don't disagree with you
And
at
black
all.
people. Yeah,
Period.
Period.
completely.
And guess what?
Yes.
This may be how people start learning about where these things are popping up is on the hotline. And it's back to your earlier point, Angela, of like, we have to get in touch. We need to know our neighbor. We need to know our people. Cause it may get to the point where it's like, hey, y'all, it's a red alert.
No, it's
They
there.
here,
Yeah,
It's there.
you know?
completely. Speaking of red alert, Andrew, I know that you wanted to talk about what's happening in Doha, which is
Yeah.
also crazy and major.
Tiff, I really appreciate that because I know a lot of folks we get it from our listeners and we get it from Angela a little bit too. The international issues can be a bit distraction, but before we go to Doha, I just want to say
I don't think I said
broad.
that. Not a
No,
distraction.
no. I mean, you say
Just as
it's difficult
sometimes
to
it's
focus
over
on the
my head.
international
Yeah.
because we got so much going on domestically, and I think that's probably a view shared by our listeners as well. We got to protect ourselves, and this is in the vein of protecting ourselves because we got to see ourselves at the intersection of these of many of these issues where we do come into focus. Yes, we heard about the strikes in Doha. I know I've been. Angela, I know you've
Is in
traveled to
Qatar.
Doha. Tiff, you've been everywhere.
I've never been to Doha. I've never been to Qatar.
Well, I have to tell you, aside from the stifling dry heat, it was a beautiful, beautiful visit. I, of course, have my exceptions with the politics, the conservative bend and the politics and the place. But nonetheless, it is a sovereign country, which in sovereign means to them, they have the right of borders. They have international rights of being seen as a autonomous state, separate and apart from any other, which means they have the rights of self-determination. You can't just fly over their airspace. Just can't drop bombs on them without declarations of war, so on and so forth. But before really digging into that, I just want to say Trump, and none of us should miss this, really, really stretched the presidency and our understanding of international law earlier this past weekend, when he decided that he was going to send the United States military to intercept a speedboat. And I think the speedboat had like 11 people on it. But nonetheless, it was a personal vessel, right? Not a military vessel, a threat of any sort that we know of. And he basically extended what would have normally been a protocol that would have been undertaken should there have been a weaponized military imminent threat on the United States, which then we would be compelled to respond. But he decided that he believed that drugs were being trafficked over international waters, with their destination being the United States of America, even though the boat was in the Caribbean, and decided to use the United States Navy to take out this boat with pedestrian citizens, not U.S. citizens, but pedestrian Venezuelan citizens on the boat. Now, typically, the way this would have been handled is the Coast Guard would have likely intercepted any vessel that they thought were trafficking drugs. They would have boarded it, they would have searched it, and determined whether or not. And if it was determined that there were drugs on it, they would have been arrested and brought before courts and given due process of the law. Facts would have had to been established. In this case, y'all, this man decided, yeah, there are drugs on the boat. These are bad people. I'm going to drop some bombs. We're going to take them out. They're now sitting in the bottom of the Caribbean Ocean, and it's handled. We don't know where that boat was going. We don't know whether it had drugs on it. We don't know who the people were that were on it, and no proof has been extended. So what happens to American citizens who may be vacationing in the Caribbean, who might be on a boat, and might be people who were critical of the president? And the president decides that he wants to send the U.S. military based off of his precept of what he believes is happening and take you out. I just want us to think about what an explosion, an extension, an incredible extension of law that is. And the fact that this was so close, I guess I take it more personally because I'm a Floridian. And I got family in Bimini and Bahamas. We travel down the lake. It's going to Miami, right? From where I live. That's how commonplace it is. And in those international waters, that a president of the United States can decide to take us out off of an assumption, not proven, and no due process or court of law involved whatsoever. That's what took place here. And so the license that he creates here, we're not seeing that same license being extended across the world. Now Netanyahu doesn't inform the United States, who is their protector, who basically pays for the military, and is the security guarantee for Israel, doesn't inform the United States and decides to enter with drones or actually these were their aircraft, go into a sovereign nation and drop bombs in a residential area. And just so you know about this residential area, this is a part of Doha where many expats and foreign diplomats live. And they drop, we already know they don't care about people's lives because they drop bombs on hospitals and kill women, children, kids, and journalists. But in this case, you now have entered a sovereign territory where the United States has a huge military outpost, huge military base, and don't consult anybody. And the wreckage there is still being accounted. And the last example I'll give is we learned this week, in the middle of the week, that Russia decided to send over 18 drones, almost 24 drones, over Poland, with their destination not being completely clear. Poland is a NATO ally of which the United States is compelled to defend if they are attacked. We don't invade people's airspace with drones or weaponry with no sense of where the destination is. If we, the United States, were to send weapons over Poland, we would have to tell them what we're doing and ask their permission for their airspace. And so all I'm saying is that I can't treat these isolated, because we, the leader of the free world, is setting the example that international law doesn't matter. In fact, laws in our own land don't matter. And therefore, the international order, y'all, is collapsing around us. And if you don't think that impacts us, think again.
Well, there are a group of people who think it impacts us. Donald Trump this week attempted to have dinner out in D.C. And the citizens, free people, are going to continue to make him feel uncomfortable. This is what happened when he tried to have dinner at Joe's Stone Cold Crab right here in the nation's capital. Take a listen.
Trump, you are not welcome here. Yes, he is. Trump is the Hitler of our time! Free D.C. Free Palestine! Trump is the Hitler of our time! Free D.C. Free Palestine! Trump is the Hitler of our time! He's terrorizing ethnic communities all over the world! From Puerto Rico to the Philippines! Free Palestine! To Venezuela! He is terrorizing communities! He is not welcome to D.C. He's not welcome to Palestine. Palestine is not for sale. Free D.C. Free Palestine! Trump is the Hitler of our time!
So that is what happened when Donald Trump, and you can see him telling people, get out of here, like get them out of here. He was dining with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And people let them know how
also
they felt.
known as the DEI clan.
Right, exactly.
Didn't even earn it.
Exactly. But I also saw people applauding and taking pictures of him, and he kept saying how safe DC is now. And that is the point. Like, it is safe for white Trump supporters to dine, but not anyone else. And so to your point, Andrew, to make that bridge between what's happening here domestically and what's happening across the world globally, when you talk about, Russia's efforts in Poland, that is a part of Vladimir Putin's global ambitions, and NATO stands in the way of that. And so we really are seeing Donald Trump reshape the global world order, we're treating allies as enemies and enemies as allies. And it's a crazy time And to Angela's point about all the things that we have to worry about here, I just feel like there's this convergence that's going to happen. We are in disarray here, and our actual enemies will look at this like this is the perfect time. The United States is
Right.
in disarray.
Right.
What a better time than to bring
That's right.
terrorism to their front door, than to
That's right.
disrupt their sense of normalcy here. So I don't know. I'm quite afraid of it, and it's giving me a little bit of angst about what's happening on the global stage and what's happening here domestically. Angela, let me ask you, because I know that you some are curious about what's happening across the globe. What do you think, like, do you draw a connection between what's happening here domestically, and like how fearful are you in the order of hierarchy about what's happening across the globe, especially because I didn't know that you had been to Doha before.
Mhm.
So having been on the ground there, I feel like you have a greater appreciation than I do about what it meant for the Israeli government to bomb a residential area. So just any thoughts that you
I
have on
think,
that.
Tiff, I appreciate that, but I think I do want to bring it back home. Welcome home, y'all.
Hmm.
For this very reason, I worked on the Homeland Security Committee too, in the House. Um, had a security clearance, but also think it is important for people to understand that our instability, everything that is happening here, is absolutely a matter of national security. So when you talk about bringing terrorism to our front door, absolutely. The other thing that we didn't talk about, but I hope we can soon, is the fact that they are asking ICE to secure this partnership with a digital firm that can hack into our phones, including encrypted apps like Signal that we readily rely upon. And I'm bringing that up to say, if you purchase the app, you think that they're not going to use that on your phone, Secretary Pete Hegseth? You think that they're not, like, these are foreign actors, and we are affording them access willfully, naively, and really, frankly, dangerously, right?
Yeah.
So I think that there are a number of places where we are at risk. Our infrastructure is at risk. Our cyber security is at risk. Our homeland is at risk. And it is from natural and man-made disasters. And the greatest man-made disaster there is Donald goddamn Trump. So
That's
I
right.
think that we have to be very clear about all of the many ways in which we're vulnerable. I would love for us to get a national security expert on. I do not purport to be one, but I think that we should have one on to talk about all of the many places that we are way vulnerable. And this, I
Yeah,
think,
that would be good.
is one of those. Even, Andrew, you talking about being in the water. There are some spaces that we should not be susceptible to those kinds of threats, and it seems like all of the rules, surprise, surprise, are out of the window.
But you know what,
Yeah.
Angela, Tiff, they have a common thread, and that is Trump is using what had previously been tactics held for foreign wars, foreign activity, and he has basically made them domestic. The military turned on its people, right? Using the Navy for law enforcement and turning it on its people. You going and weaponizing our technology against us so that they can get into our phones and evade now all guarantees we have over civil liberties. Those are tactics that they have extended in foreign wars, that they are now turning on their own people domestically. It is against the law. It has been ruled against the law, but they are skirting the law in every way possible and basically taking what are militarized and national security apparatus, which are used to repel foreign agents, and in rare cases, those that are domestic who are against us, they're using that apparatus and they're turning the whole damn thing on the 400
Yeah.
plus million people who call this place home, the free states of the United States of America.
Yeah.
We got to be careful. Building his own military force through Homeland Security. He's taking
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
military apparatus and he's pointing it at us. That's the danger.
Yeah. Heavy
Every
times,
time,
you
fam.
guys. I know we got to a lot today. I know we probably overloaded the audience, but again, I hope that you all will share these conversations and rate, review, subscribe, and all the things. And I read the comments, so I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below about former Vice President Kamala Harris's book, about this the global threats that we're facing, and most certainly about Donald Trump having a third term. And of course, if you have a question, comment, if we say something you agreed with or disagreed with,
Let us
do
know.
please drop us a video. We say welcome home because we do really welcome you home. This is your home too, and so you all are part of the conversation. We're not hosts talking at you, we're co-hosts talking with you, and you guys are really co-hosts too, because when you want us to talk about a topic, we will talk about that topic. So I look forward to looking at your videos and including them in the show. Let's get to CTAs. Let's get to these calls to action.
For real.
All right, we've had a lot. We packed a lot in this show. I feel like so. Let's leave our viewers, our listeners, our audience with some calls to action.
You said readers.
I did say readers.
I love it.
I did.
They
say
can read
readers.
the transcript.
I know.
They
That's
can,
true. They might
That's
be reading
true.
the transcript. All right. Well, what you got? Since you making fun of me. By the way, earlier in the show, Andrew, you said insult and assault. That was some nice alliteration that I do plan on stealing. So I just want to give you a heads up. Now
You got it. Hey, I appreciate the attribution at this stage. I know I won't see it again, but I appreciate it here. For sure. You know what, folks? I would say this is for parents with kids who have just returned to school and that sort of thing. And I'm reminded of the fact that we can't take for granted that everyone is going to see our children's light and their talent, and that no matter what grade they're in and where and how accelerated they may be in their classes, that we still have to be our children's best and first advocate. Speaking up, showing up at the open houses, having those conferences with the teachers. If they don't schedule them, you initiate them to check in on your child, because so often they can be overlooked, or their performance can be seen as anomalies rather than, no, this is actually the standard at which they perform. And based off that, we recommend this, that, and the third. But we can't just hand our children. There's no other environment by which we would hand our children over to strangers, by and large, to us, and take our hands off of them for 7-8 hours of the day, and not be curious about what happened in that period of time. And so I just encourage, whether you're a parent, a grandparent, a godparent, whatever role you may serve in the child's life, that we're still their best and first advocates, always.
I love that. Angela, what you got?
Mine is, I want to urge you all, if you haven't, to please go back, go black, yes, but also go back and listen to our episode with the Afro-Vivalist.
Oh, yes.
I'm encouraging that because, and if you need to, do it like once a month. And I'm saying that because I really want us to be clear about the danger that lies ahead. I really want us to figure out what concerted effort, what role we can play in the times that are coming, whether you are a funder and you want to help people with legal expenses in this very illegal setup that we find ourselves in. If you are a Black farmer and you want to ensure that fresh produce is available to your community. If you have land and you want to make sure that there's a safe haven for those of us who need safety and lack shelter or property. I just want us to be very intentional about what assets, what talents, what gifts we have to pour into this communal pot in this environment. And please be ready. You know what they say, y'all. If we stay ready, we ain't got
Don't
to
have to
get
get
ready.
ready.
Thank you to Flavor Flav. Andrew, you already went. And Tiff, you have the floor.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to go last, but I was gonna say mine's a little woo woo, but I feel like we're all a little more sentimental in our calls to action this week. So I just had a long therapy session that I'll tell you guys about later. But it's really brought home the idea to me that life is so temporary, like so temporary, but not just temporary, but brief. Like it goes by, like the years can be seconds. Like we really just are tiny grains of sand in this hourglass of time. And it has put in perspective for me, because I would look back at my life, and in my 20s and my 30s, it was like I was making all these plans waiting for life to begin. And then when you
Mm.
get to 40 and you look back and you're like, oh no, but life was happening. All those times that you were making plans and waiting for
That's
life to
it.
start, your life was happening then. Life happens all
Yes.
around you. And so the decades are flying by. And now that I'm closer to 50 than I am to 40, than I am to 30,
Mhm.
20, it's really making me center the fact that every single day is a gift and every single day is
Mm.
happening right now. Because I even
Yeah.
find myself now waiting for life to begin. Maybe life will begin when I insert whatever, when I get this
Mm.
dream job, when I get married, when I
Mm.
achieve something. I don't know, whatever your insert is. And I just don't feel that way. And so it started with small things for me. It's like, I've always wanted this liquor cabinet. I'm going to buy it. Like, why wait? Or, I have this special bottle that I've been waiting to crack open, but today is special because I'm alive and I'm well and I'm here and I'm bearing witness to
Mm.
this history. So not letting the minutia of the day get me down, but really embracing the fact that I am living my life today. I am present. And even in some African cultures, there is no concept of a future. There's no concept of tomorrow because it's
Mm.
just your
Mm.
imagination. Today is happening right now. So I just want to
Yeah.
share that with
Love that.
everybody. And if it encourages you to be more present in this moment and live today, then whatever that means and looks like to
I
you.
love that.
Yeah.
I love
I want to
that.
tell you guys
Tiff, can I
about it
share
over
with you
dinner.
about my mother-in-law?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Yeah,
Please tell me.
please. No, I was just gonna say my mother-in-law, like, so you know how you have china cabinets
Yes.
and nice towels that you don't bring out, except for my mother-in-law does not live that way. It don't matter what she's
I
serving.
love it.
It's going if she's eating by herself, it's gonna be on her china.
I
It's
love
gonna
it.
be on her fine dining. If she's gonna wear her, mink if she want to. She's, you close to her over there in Alabama, Angela.
Yeah.
But I love that, and I found myself of late, and honestly, this is an every night inventory. It has become is when my kids time to go to bed. I start like retracing, like, did I spend enough time talking to them after school today? Did I spend enough time like just kind of getting underneath, just evaluating that in the in the day, in the moment, and then trying to do better than setting myself up in the fantasy and the what hasn't come.
Yeah.
But what I hope to manifest is that tomorrow I'll spend more time because, as they say, the days are long, but the years are short.
So
And I think
short.
that's true for not just children, but for our individual lives. The days, yeah, they can be long, but the years are short.
That's so true. So true. So I'm hoping that you all can take something from that. And shout out to Andrew's mother-in-law. He talks about you all the time. The boy love his
Yes.
his
Love.
mother in
They
And I
love.
talk
love
about
it.
my mama too. Hey,
Yes,
ma,
and your mama.
love
We
you.
love mama. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
All
Mama
right.
Gilla.
Well, as always, we want to remind everyone that's listening, please, please, please be sure to subscribe to Native Land Pod. Tell your friends, tell your mom and them, tell your cousins, tell your mother-in-law,
And them,
everybody. We
and
we
them.
certainly try to meet the moment each week and share our thoughts on what's happening across a wide range of topics. So if you're looking for more shows like ours, please check out other shows on Reason Choice Media. It's Politics with our girl Jamel Hill, Off the Cup with Essie Cup, and of course the newest edition, Now You Know, with Noah DeBarasso. Please be sure to give them a follow, check them out, let us know what you think about them, and don't forget to follow us too on our social media and subscribe to our text or email list at nativelandpod.com. When you subscribe to that text, I want you to know that's Angela's personal cell phone number, so she's giving you those
Yeah.
updates.
Oh,
so be
Lord.
sure to subscribe on
That's
that
by
and
your
get
own
the
show.
email
Be
list.
your own people.
It always be your own people, girl. Always.
Oh my God.
Anyway, we are Tiffany Cross, Angela Wright, Andrew Gillum. There are 418 days until midterm elections, but we're going to see if those actually happen. Welcome home.
Watch
y'all.
it. Welcome home.
Thank you for joining the natives. Intentional with the info on all of the latest. Rod Gillum and Cross connected to the statements that you leave on our socials. Thank you sincerely for the patience. Reason for your choice is clear. We're so grateful. Took the oath to execute roles. Yeah, faithful. Preserve, defend, and protect the truth, even if painful. Welcome home to all of the natives. We thank you.
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.